Hi, welcome. I'm Holly Magnuson from Favorite Christian Books, and I have Dani here with me. And I was going to ask Dani how to pronounce her last name correctly and forgot.
It's Petri.
Petrie. Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to, pronounce it wrong, and then I totally forgot.
That's okay. It's like a Dick Van Dyke Show, if anybody remembers that. Robin Laura Petri.
Okay, I did not know that name. I remember the Dick Van Dyke Show, but yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah.
very excited to have Dani here with me to talk about her the Alaskan Courage series and get to know her a little better. And one of my first questions I wanted to find out is why Alaska for the backdrop?
I get that question a lot. People are really seem to be intrigued with Alaska. The reason I picked it is I started out with the concept of a family that owned an adventure outfitting company. And I knew they were all going to volunteer with search and rescue. So I wanted a location that provided a wide variety of adventure activities, water, mountains, scuba diving, heli-skiing, kind of everything in between. And that helped narrow it down to a few locations. And also I wanted some place that had this rugged terrain that, felt a little different from every day for most people. And I just felt Alaska kind of had this inherent element of risk to it if you're not properly prepared for the elements. And it's such a majestic state. And a lot of people want to visit or have visited but don't necessarily live there, and so it was kind of a fun place to really research and write about, and I love that I've been able to set the stories there.
Now, have you had a chance to go to Alaska?
I have not. It's on my bucket list, and I have to say my list for my dream trip there has grown longer and longer and longer with each book I write. I find a new place I want to visit, a new activity I want to try, so by the time I get there we're going to need a good couple weeks at least.
I had friends who they actually spent 6 weeks. Instead of,
Wow,
they
that must
drove
have been amazing.
and they spent 6 weeks and still did not feel like it was long enough.
Wow. I mean, I can completely understand that. The state is so large and there's so much to see. I mean, wildlife and the towns, and just to even move between them, takes time. So I can definitely see that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a very exciting trip. As a photographer, I would love to just go take pictures.
Yes, yes. My husband's a photographer as well, and he's the same thing. He's like, I could just get lost there.
Yeah. I just came back from Yosemite, and there is just so beautiful as well, and I just can't imagine what Alaska would be like to shoot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So as we've talked, before we started, we talked a little bit about the characters, but how do you develop your characters? Are they some of them after actual people? How do you go about developing the McKenna family?
Well, it started out with how the whole series started actually was that I watched a movie about cave divers with my family, and I thought, wow, who's crazy enough to do something like that for a living, as the case was in the movies, or people who would do that for a hobby. And that's kind of where the whole idea for the series started, was this group of people, this family of siblings, which love adventure and thrive off adventure and who do it for a living, and also the service component with search and rescue. And I kind of just started with that basic framework. And I started with the first story, Submerged, and I thought, well, let me start with the oldest brother. And so I kind of had this idea there was going to be 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and really at that point I knew the oldest brother was going to be dive rescue captain. I knew I wanted to have that diving element in there because the movie intrigued me, so I wanted to learn more about cave divers. So I started with that, but then really from that point on, and I researched the location. I spent a lot of time researching the location, but really from that point I sit down and I write the first draft. I don't know a ton about my characters when I start writing, and I really enjoy getting to see them kind of develop themselves through the writing of the first draft. It does mean more revisions for me on the other end, rather than plotting beforehand, but I love that experience of getting to see them kind of come to life on their own. And it was a lot of fun for me because Piper, for example, I thought would be the last book in the series, and she just came to life in the first book so much I knew the second book had to be her. So kind of having the freedom to just go with where the characters are leading, and I really enjoy that. But to answer the second part of your question about them being based on real people, The McKenna siblings do share some characteristics with family members of mine. The sisters each have something in common with each of my daughters. One of the brothers is quite a bit like my husband. They're their own characters, but there are traits that they have and different things that they share with me or my husband or my children.
Very cool. Which character, because I know we're going to be winding down this series with the next book. Which character is going to be the hardest to say goodbye to?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. That's so hard. I guess I would have to say Cole, just because he's kind of the head of the family. He kind of, to me, represents the whole family. The series started out with him. I guess I would probably say Cole. I just kind of associate the whole series with him.
Yeah, like you say, he's a foundation. He's a solid person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know which characters. I'm looking forward to the next book with Rift. Anything you want to share about the final book?
Well, it's actually the cover and summary, if it's not already available on my website, will be very, very shortly. It's going to be out February 1st. It's already available for pre-order, if you can believe it. It was really, I'm working on revisions now. It's been really interesting. It was really fun writing the story. At the same time, it was kind of a bittersweet experience because I've been telling their stories for years now, several years now, because I wrote for a while before I was published. And so, it's been a while and I've grown to love them. And so I'm definitely going to miss telling their stories and spending time with them. And at the same time, it's been a number of years, so it's going to be kind of fun and challenging to tell different character stories, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know the least about Reef. And I said his name wrong. It's Reef, not Rift.
Got it.
Sorry about that. We know the least about him. We got to know him a little bit better in this last book.
Yeah.
But, I'm looking forward to where you're going to take us with him.
Yeah.
Do you have a sneak peek for what's on the horizon? What's next? Do you know where you're going to go?
I do, actually. I signed a contract for a 4-book series, the first of which will be out a year from September. And it's going to take place in my neck of the woods in the Chesapeake Bay area. And so it'll be romantic suspense as well, some adventure in there, a lot of mystery, and I hope readers will really enjoy the new series.
It's probably a little tough to follow a series like The Alaskan Courage, because it was a very enjoyable series, easy to fall in love with the characters, and so then the next book you're like, okay, are the characters going to be as good, or stuff.
Yeah, it is, especially when you've spent so much time in one, developing a town and developing all these characters, and yeah, it's definitely exciting and challenging, a little nerve-wracking, so hopefully readers will enjoy the new series too.
Well, one of the things I have learned is, I used to say I only read suspense mystery, the sooner the dead body, the better. But I have found that a good writer is a good writer, regardless of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that I would say, you're a good writer. Your stories are engaging. So
thank you.
I'm looking forward to the next series, even though I hate saying goodbye to the McKennas, and I don't know how much you've read of Colleen Coble.
Mm-hmm. I have. I've read a lot of her.
And a certain dog in search and rescue that keeps reappearing.
So yes, that's very true. So people have asked me, will you ever do a McKenna reunion book or something down the road? And I say never say never. So we will wait and see. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always been fun. You're reading her books and seeing who's going to pop up.
Yes,
it makes it very, very interesting.
It is. I really enjoy Colleen's stories.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? What else would you like to share about yourself, about your books?
Well, I just really how much I appreciate readers. I love how people have, you know, kind of fallen in love with the McKenna family, and I just appreciate the encouraging emails I receive and all the support of my readers. You know, I love the McKenna family, and I'm glad readers are as well. And I just, you know, I have people email asking how they can pray for me as an author, and I just really appreciate that. You know, writing is not always the easiest thing. You know, I love it. You know, can't picture doing anything else. I feel, you know, that's kind of what God created me for, and it's a blessing. But I definitely appreciate people's prayers, you know, praying that my stories glorify God and that they are the stories He wants out there and that they reach the readers He wants to reach. And so if you feel so inclined, I'd love your prayers as well for me, for my stories and writing. And, you know, my family, I have a wonderful family. We, like I said, some of the McKennas are based off of us. We love adventure. I often get asked if I'm as adventurous as the McKennas, and that's a definite no. I say I do a lot of adventures, but on the mild level. You know,
You're
like
not Katie.
no, I'm not Kaden. Never was Kaden. My older daughter probably kind of close, but I'm like hiking, kayaking, great. Heliskiing, not gonna happen. So, but it's been fun. I love that part of it. I love researching different extreme sports and different adventures, and you know, it's just such a fun part of the process.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your gift with us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I guess this will be the end. I'll stop the broadcast. Be sure on my website there'll be links to Dani's website and her Facebook page and all that good stuff. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me, Holly.